Portals Numerology course, Module 2B, The Name, Motivation, Inner Self, Expression, Karmic Lessons, Subconscious Response, and Hidden Tendencies. This module explores what the name reveals, the motivation, inner self, expression, karmic lessons, subconscious response, and hidden tendencies. What's in a name? We can only guess as to how names first originated in ancient history, but we can rely on written and oral history to give us some insights. Usually descriptive, names are considered to have been created to reflect meaning according to the surroundings, tribal customs, or physical attributes. It's been suggested that names develop from using nouns, such as wolf, for the Irish Gaelic name Conan. The Bible mentions the story of Rachel, who named her last son Benoni, which translates as son of my sorrow, illustrating how naming practices evolved into more elaborate descriptors. Benoni's father, Jacob, renamed him as Benjamin, which meant son of the right hand. Names were also compounds, such as the Frankish Childeric, meaning battle powerful, and pagan cultures used compounds for their children's names to honour their deities, like Thorval, Thor's ruler, for males, and Thorgunna, Thor's fighter, for females. As names evolved, they formed what is known as name pools, where parents chose their newborns' names from existing pools rather than creating new ones. As language progressed over the years, names became more removed, or at least morphed, from their original meanings. Christians began naming their children after saints, many of which are still used today, like Mary and Joseph. When pagans were forced to adopt Christianity, they kept their original name pools. In the Middle Ages, the practice of using Christian names spread, and to this day they are the least changed in most of the name pools. After the Norman conquest of England in 1066 AD, the pool of names changed drastically, from compound names to French names of Germanic origin, like Matilda and Richard. The Old English names that were used to honour the saints were preserved, and the resulting pool continued to evolve and expand. Surnames evolved to differentiate between those with the same names. Some were based on heritage between the 12th and 16th century to identify the father or mother's names, for example, son of Richard or Richardson. Some described their location, Richard of Croydon, and some were descriptive names based on the person's work or personality. There were also nicknames, which continue to be used to describe the person's characteristics or behaviour. Robert the Small or Titch are examples, and some nicknames describe a person's disposition, like Fairweather, to denote their cheerful behaviour. The evolution of naming practices has become rich with influences from all over the world, and many people today like to create new names, either based on characters from art, literature or history, or constructs that are based on popular culture, fantasy, or the parents' interests. The alphabet grid. Each letter in the alphabet corresponds to a number, as seen in the grid above. We use these attributes to discover the following: the motivation, what impels us; the inner self, our hidden nature; the expression, how we present to the world. After calculating the above, we go on to explore the following: the karmic lessons, the subconscious response, the hidden tendencies, major and minor. Using myself as an example, I'm showing my name and the corresponding numbers using the alphabet grid. As you can see, the vowels are written on top and the consonants are written underneath. The sum of the vowels reduced to a single digit equals 8, which gives me my motivation, and the sum of the consonants reduced to a single digit equals 7, which gives me my inner self. When I add the 8 to the 7, this gives me the single digit of 6, which gives me my expression. For example, For the vowels, 5 plus 6 plus 3 plus 6 plus 6 equals 26. And then when reduced, 2 plus 6 equals 8, which is my motivation. And the consonants, 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 7 plus 9 plus 4 plus 6 plus 2 equals 43. Then reduced to a single digit, 4 plus 3 equals a 7 inner self. Adding the vowels to the consonants as single digits, the 8 plus 7 equals 15. Then 1 plus 5 equals 6, which gives me my expression. Task 13. Calculate your motivation, inner self and expression, then write them in your name grid in your workbook. The motivation, inner self and expression. The motivation reveals what compels us in life, personally, professionally and spiritually. Sometimes we wonder why we do or say certain things, so the motivation can give us a hint as to why we chose a certain course of action or said a certain thing. While other factors can come into play, such as our destiny or personality, the motivation is the impetus that drives us forward. The inner self is what goes on beneath the skin, our secret thoughts, desires, hopes and dreams. Sometimes carefully guarded, there are those times when our inner self escapes in Freudian slips, and those close to us might think that they know us best, but even they don't know our innermost secrets. The child within resides there, clinging to the pain of the past trauma and hoping for recognition. The expression is how others see us, whether we know what we're projecting or not. Sometimes cryptic messages from the inner self leak out, making it easy for others to sense our moods, even when we're unaware of this happening. The expression also governs how we dress and how we act in public. The number 1. As the motivation, these individuals are motivated by the need to be independent, and they prefer to work alone rather than in groups. They like to be their own boss, enjoying their own company. As the inner self, these people have the propensity to self-isolate and possibly suffer from social phobias. Their individualism makes them feel alienated from others. And as the expression, others see these individuals as loners, and their originality sets them apart. They are very independent and seen as leaders in whatever field they choose. The number 2. As the motivation, those with a 2 motivation are compelled to help others, preferring to communicate on an emotional level. It's all about how they feel, and working cooperatively. As the inner self, these people have a strong need for partnerships and tend to be quite sensitive. They can be emotionally dependent and have the propensity for clinging. As the expression, wearing their heart on their sleeves, these individuals are seen as friendly, cooperative and intuitive. They outwardly express themselves emotionally. The number 3. As the motivation, compelled to express themselves and to be with people. These people feel the urge to communicate, especially creatively, and they must be heard and understood. As the inner self, overactive mental activity and scattered energies can be exhausting for these people. They need to be around others all the time and can't stand being alone. As the expression, others see these individuals as creative, talkative, and buzzing with energy. Optimistic and generous, they are great at expressing themselves verbally. The number 4. Motivation. These people are motivated by the need to be practical, and they throw themselves into work or whatever project they're doing. They strive for structure and stability. As the inner self, a strong need for structure and knowing where they stand is vital for these people. They loathe disorder and tend to be nitpickers and sticklers for rules. As the expression, these people come across as dependable, practical and strong. They are seen as perfectionists and sometimes argumentative. The number 5. As the motivation, these people are compelled to be free and unfettered by others. and these people strive to involve themselves in intellectual pursuits and experiencing as much as they can. As the inner self, these individuals have a strong need for gratification of the senses, whether drugs, alcohol, or sex. Their desires can sometimes be overwhelming. The expression is they are often surrounded by a hive of activity, especially intellectual. These people come across as adaptable and versatile. They are nicely dressed and usually attractive. The number 6. As the motivation, these people have a compulsion to help others, feeding off their love of harmony and peace to maintain the status quo, which involves being responsible, especially with family. As the inner self, these individuals prefer to be married and have a romanticized view of the home and family. Strongly drawn to the arts, they strive for peace and harmony. As the expression, coming across as responsible and reliable, these people attract others for their warmth and kindness due to their parental aura. They exude the artistic side of life. The number 7. As a motivation, it's about needing to know everything on a deeper level, and these individuals strive to immerse themselves in spiritual subjects. They are motivated by the need for knowledge. As the inner self, they're deeply analytical and withdrawn, and these people can be secretive, especially about past trauma and pain. They are very serious and deep thinkers. As the expression, they come across to others as serious and experts in their field. Seemingly wise and almost sage-like, they express themselves as quietly intense. The number 8. As the motivation, compelled to acquire material wealth, these people have a strong ego and are ambitious. Achievement is important to them, and they strive to be the best in their field. As the inner self, these people can be manipulative and dominant. They tend to look down on others who are less fortunate, and they hold on to grudges for a long time. As the expression, these individuals can come across as strong, domineering, and authoritative. Strongly attached to materialism, others see them as successful and powerful. The number 9. As the motivation, these people are motivated by the need to be compassionate and are often involved in humanitarian pursuits. They have a global worldview and love helping others. As the inner self, they tend to feel injustices deeply, whether related to people, animals, or the environment. They are also quite judgmental and don't suffer fools gladly. As the expression, coming across as intelligent and concerned with world issues, these people are unconventional in the way they project themselves, making others think that they're strange. Task 14. Using the name grid in your workbook, write down your motivation, inner self and expression. Record your impressions. Karmic Lessons, Subconscious Response and Hidden Tendencies. Assessing the karmic lessons. Using the missing numbers in the everyday name, for example Sue Smith rather than the full name at birth, Susan Catherine Smith, which is used for the yearly interpretations, we can assess the karmic lessons. Some of us might have already learned the lessons and the effects are minimal now. It depends on how far we've travelled and how many opportunities we've had to work them through. For me, I'm married, so I now use my everyday name, Kelly Proudfoot. We will talk about name changes at the end of this module, but for now, let's take a look at how we figure out our karmic lessons, using myself yet again as an example. As you can see, I am missing the numbers 1 and 8 in my name, so these are my karmic lessons, which will be explained soon. You may have 4 or even 5 karmic lessons, but it's also possible that you won't have any. I've done a few readings where this was the case. However, these people usually deal with karmic lessons to a smaller degree in accordance with their personal years, to be discussed in a later module. The karmic lessons. Number 1. Understanding and accepting independence. Number 2. Learning how to deal with the emotions. Number 3. the lesson of verbal and social expression. Number 4, understanding the balance of work and play. Number 5, learning moderation and adaptability. Number 6, learning how to be responsible. Number 7, learning to keep the faith when depression hits. Number 8, learning the power of authority and ego. Number 9, the lesson of practicing tolerance and compassion. Task 15. Calculate your karmic lessons and record them in your name grid in your workbook. Write a few paragraphs about your impressions. Were there no karmic lessons? Assessing the subconscious response. Just as it sounds, the subconscious response is how you react to people and events, especially in a crisis. My teacher Elia liked to use the example of a burning building, which I will also use here since it's a good exercise in understanding instant reactions. First, let's see how we calculate the subconscious response, which is easy and involves the number of karmic lessons you have. For example, I have the karmic lessons 1 and 8, which means that I have 2 karmic lessons. Using the number 9 to start with, we subtract the number of karmic lessons, for me 2, from 9, and the result is 7. This is my subconscious response. If you had 3 karmic lessons, your subconscious response would be 6, since you would subtract 3 from 9. The subconscious response. Number 1, thinking of the self first. Number 2, reacting emotionally. Number 3, scattered energies. Number 4, organized and practical. Number 5, lost in thought. Number 6, sentimental. Number 7, withdrawn or in denial. Number 8, domineering and or egotistical. Number 9, people-oriented and selfless. While burning buildings are a serious matter, let's use the scenario to illustrate the comical side to the subconscious responses. I'm using SR to make it shorter. SR1, the first one to disappear, me first. SR2, bursting into tears and collapsing in a heap. SR3, running around on the spot wondering what to do. SR4, coming up with plans which could delay the rescue. SR5, intellectualizing about the history of fire. SR6, racing into the burning house to save the family heirlooms. SR7, retreating into the shadows to pray. SR8, bossing everyone around, assigning roles. SR9, bursting into the flames to save people without thinking. Of course, this is a silly example since most of us might initially react this way, but we launch ourselves into action depending on the crisis and who's involved. We have natural human instincts to save loved ones or the family pet as soon as we can. In a crisis that might be less dangerous, such as a confrontation with someone or a traffic accident, we might be more inclined to react according to our subconscious response. Task 16. Calculate your subconscious response and record it in your name grid in your workbook. Write a few paragraphs about your impressions. Can you think back to a time where your subconscious response was accurate? If so, why or why not? Assessing the hidden tendencies. These are the tendencies that might be obvious to those who are close to us, but they are usually a surprise to those around us, if not ourselves. We can figure out our hidden tendencies by looking at the number of multiple numbers in our everyday names. Any number that appears 3 or more times indicates a hidden tendency according to the value of the number. Some of them are major and some of them are minor, depending on how many multiples we have. Only 3 multiples equals a minor hidden tendency, but when there are 4 or more multiples of that number, it's a major hidden tendency. To illustrate, see the following image where I use my name as an example. As you can see, I have 3 number 3s, meaning that I have a 3 minor hidden tendency, and 4 number 6s, meaning that I have a 6 major hidden tendency. Let's take a look at the meaning of each number according to their hidden tendency. Number 1. Either self-centered or totally disregarding the self. Number 2. Overly emotional or allowing others to manipulate their emotions. Number 3. Misrepresenting themselves and scattering energies. Number 4. Overwork and stress, being critical and stubborn. Number 5. Makes changes too quickly and over-gratification of the senses. Number 6. Overly concerned with responsibility and others' problems. Number 7. Too withdrawn and or depressed, overly analytical. Number 8. Abuse of authority, controlling, vindictive and greedy. Number 9. Overly concerned with humanity's problems or intolerant. So, any multiple that is more than 3 times showing up in the name is a major hidden tendency, meaning that the tendency is a problem to a major degree, while the occurrence of 3 times is to a minor degree. If you don't have any hidden tendencies, that means that you are well balanced, or at least you're self-aware and good at controlling your negative traits or tendencies. Name changes. There have been many people who've changed their names or the spelling of their names to make their karmic lessons, etc. more agreeable. This is a complicated process since the whole numerology chart should be taken into consideration. Women and others who change their surnames after getting married already have changes in their lives on top of the name change. I noticed that when I got married, my motivation changed from a 7 to an 8. What is interesting is that I have become more ambitious and more likely to see projects through to the end with the 8 motivation. I finally published several books, fantasy novels, something I felt I could never do before I got married. I think it's important to check your whole chart to see if a name change would offset other numbers and elements. After all is said and done, it's a personal choice. Task 17. In your workbook, record your hidden tendencies in your name grid, if you have them. Write a few paragraphs about your impressions. Are there any that you have surmounted that are not an issue anymore? Feel free to elaborate.